I'm Joan Jones. I was Joan Gregory. I've lived in the area all my life. I think I was born in Chapeltown maternity home when there was one. Lived at Charlton Brook, which was at that time just a small hamlet of maybe 50 terraced houses. There was a small iron foundry, 2 shops which were in people's front rooms, and it was surrounded by farmland on 3 sides and by Charlton Brook Dam, which Newton Chambers had built in 1870. So we grew up, and the local history and natural history, I think, just seeped into us as we grew up. You know, we knew where to get sticklebacks in Charlton Brook Dam. We knew where the red pimpernels were growing in the hedgerow. We knew when the ramsons were flowering by the stream. We knew when the bluebells were out in the woodlands. And thinking about it, there were old buildings around which we attended Burncross 19th century chapel. I went to Burncross Board School, as it was, built in 1884. When we went perhaps on a walk to Chapeltown Park, we went over the fields, past Housley Hall, you know, quite an ancient dwelling place. And I think things just sort of seeped into you without you realising it. We could identify things, we knew which buildings were old. And of course, there was all the culture growing up in the 50s and 60s. Chapel was very much instrumental, shall we say, because there were Christmas parties. We had Whitsuntide parades, Whitsuntide parties, we had youth clubs, we had the Harvest Festival, the anniversaries. These were sort of annual events that we always look forward to, usually because we got new clothes or we were eating something. And then, of course, the fair came to this area, High Green first, then Chapeltown, then Ecclesfield, so we always look forward to the fairground coming. And that was pretty much life, really. Lots of people to play with round and about, so we were damming streams and picking flowers, that sort of thing. And then as I got into teens, I went to Ecclesfield Grammar School. We had carol services in Ecclesfield Church, so I suppose your area was growing and you were getting to know, you know, more of what was going on locally. Every Boxing Day we went up to Grenoside to see the sword dancers perform. So that was a very pleasurable and enjoyable part of life. And of course, Newton Chambers were on the doorstep. I think at the time they probably employed about 10,000 people in different aspects. And every day there was the works buzzer that we heard. And I had 2 neighbours who worked at the Isle factory. My mum, incidentally, during the Second World War, as a teenager, she worked on the overhead cranes in the heavy casting bay, making the plates for Churchill tanks. And I'd got 2 uncles who were moulders there. So we knew about the works. There were so many people that we knew that worked there in different capacities. So again, that was something that we knew about as we grew up. When I went to college, I did a study about how Newton Chambers had influenced the growth of the surrounding villages, and as you can imagine, it was quite marked. When I started teaching, we were able to introduce local history into the curriculum. So I took children visiting the old Bell Pit mines or Housley Hall or whatever. And later on, while I was teaching locally, I led a group of teachers from High Green and Chapeltown, and we put together some materials for teachers to use and for pupils to use, including lots of archive material. For instance, you know, what it was like for a child working in a coal mine from the Employment Commission. And we looked at what life would have been like if they'd gone to a school in the 19th century and how different it was, and what it was like growing up during the Second World War. So we did those projects with children. And I also ran local history classes for both adult education and for the WEA at various times. And all that, and the people that we met, which was lovely, and everybody's got a story to tell, and those passionate people, we came together in 1987 and decided to form a local history group, which was one of the first in the area, because we were concerned that a lot of material and a lot of memories were going to be lost because time was moving on, times were changing. So we started as a group collecting photographs and postcards of the area, and hundreds of people were really generous in letting us borrow the material, which we copied and then returned, and obviously at the same time found as much out as we could about each of the images that they were lending to us. And we've now got a collection of about 3,000 images, which we had blown up to about 10 by 8 size. And they're all catalogued and captioned as much as we could find out. And then we use those in mounting really quite major exhibitions over the years, using the Packhorse School, using the Newton Chambers Hall, the Gatty Hall, places in Ecclesfield, Grenoside and Ecclesfield. So we put on a lot of exhibitions, and we've published, I think it's about 31 books over the years of recollections and photographs, and one book just about recollections called Voices of the Past. And as I said, we've met loads of lovely people. We've introduced, long lost family members and all sorts at the exhibition. So it's been, a tremendous time. And we've done leaflets, and we've produced old maps that we've written accounts for. We've written in newspapers and magazines. So really keen to impress what a rich heritage this area had and still has to some extent. And then going on to the present archiving project, under the sort of umbrella of Ecclesfield Parish Council. I'm not sure when that started, maybe about 2015 or thereabouts, and we had a letter from the council saying, would we, together with other groups that had since formed, would we meet together with the idea of pooling some of our resources and material generally, and putting some of that information onto a website to make it more accessible for 21st century people, which is happening. And that's been a tremendous task, and it's still going on, as you can imagine. So that has sort of gone on over the years, and as you know, Emma is now looking, taking charge of that project. So we became, we got involved at that point, and we've done a lot of scanning of images ourselves and providing material for the website, including a short history of the parish, history of our group, lists of books that are worth dipping into, as well as, I say, providing the photographs and the information about them. So, it's still a major task, and there's still a lot of interest, I'm pleased to say. And as the area's expanded, a lot of people have moved into the area who hadn't grown up here, and thankfully many are quite keen to look at how it was and be involved in some shape or form.